It is July 3rd, 1904. Theodor Herzl is dead at 44. The Zionist movement he leads is in a state of shock. 10 days later, 30-year-old Chaim Weizmann, who will one day succeed him, arrives in England to take up a research position in chemistry at the University of Manchester. He has 16 pence in his pocket. His English is equally poor. Born in 1874 in the townlet of Motul in the Russian Pale of Settlement, Weizmann is raised in an Orthodox Jewish family. He's the third of 15 children of Ozer Weizmann, a lumber merchant of modest means. Showing early scientific ability, Chaim moves west to study chemistry in Berlin. He is already part of a Zionist circle when Theodor Herzl's The Jewish State appears in 1896. Weizmann says,
"It was like a bolt from the blue. Not the ideas, but the personality which stood behind them appealed to us. Here was daring, clarity, and energy."
In Manchester, Weizmann divides his time between his chemical research and Zionist activities. He marries Vera Chatzman in 1906, once she has finished her medical studies in Geneva. Their first son, Benjamin, is born the following year. In 1913, he receives a major blow when he is rejected for the chair in chemistry at the University of Manchester. He seriously weighs an invitation to come to Berlin and work full-time for the World Zionist Organization. Vera stops him. She is opposed to his giving up his scientific career, and having recently graduated from medical school for the second time in England, she refuses to start over. Weizmann is so angry he won't speak to her for 3 weeks. The wisdom of staying in England becomes evident the next year as Europe is engulfed in World War I. Historian Ben Halpern writes,
Weizmann's achievement during the war years is made possible in good part by the disorganization of world Zionism and the leeway this afforded to freelance activists to take advantage of local opportunities.
The World Zionist Organization, its leadership splintered among warring nations, declares a policy of strict neutrality. Weizmann strongly disagrees. He writes to fellow Zionist Shemaryahu Levin,
"I am convinced that the outcome of this catastrophe will be a British and French victory. Turkey has aroused the Allied powers against her, and she will have to pay for this. I further hope that Palestine will come under English influence and England will understand the Zionists better than anyone else."
Weizmann's Zionist efforts now go into overdrive. In September 1914, he makes an important ally in C.P. Scott, the editor of the Manchester Guardian. Scott has the ear of prominent politician David Lloyd George, whom he lobbies on Weizmann's behalf. On January 15, 1915, Weizmann meets with Lloyd George, then Chancellor of the Exchequer, and Herbert Samuel, also a high government official who, unlike most British elite Jews, is pro-Zionist. Weizmann impresses Lloyd George, who tells Samuel,
"When you and I are forgotten, this man will have a monument to him in Palestine."
However, when Samuel submits a memorandum to the cabinet in January 1915, and then again in March, advocating a British protectorate in Palestine in which Jewish immigration and self-government would be encouraged, Prime Minister Herbert Asquith ridicules the idea. Asquith's friend Edwin Montagu, a cabinet member and cousin of Samuel, is the sort of elite Jew Weizmann most fears. On March 16, 1915, Montagu sends a confidential memorandum to Asquith.
As I understand it, the whole claim of the Jews to equality of treatment is based on the fact that they are citizens of countries in which they have been born and lived for generations. You would be setting up the formation of a state out of a polyglot collection of people, and the confusion would not be any great improvement on that which followed the erection of the Tower of Babel.
In the spring of 1915, Weizmann's scientific work solves a major wartime crisis, boosting his status and indirectly his Zionist efforts. He has developed a fermentation process which produces large quantities of acetone. Essential to the production of cordite, a propellant for explosives ranging from bullets to howitzers, acetone has been in dangerously short supply. Then, on December 6, 1916, the pro-Zionist David Lloyd George succeeds Herbert Asquith as Prime Minister. He gathers people around him with a similar outlook, such as Lloyd Balfour, who becomes foreign minister, Jan Christian Smuts, Mark Sykes, and Leopold Amory. Weizmann biographer Norman Rose writes that there is now
the convergence of Zionist and British interests that Weizmann could not have foreseen, but that he was to exploit with consummate skill and timing.
Britain believes Zionism will strengthen its hand against France's ambitions in the region. It also hopes a pro-Zionist declaration will win Jewish sympathy to the Allied cause, especially in America, which is still neutral. Even British anti-Semitism helps. In high government circles, there is widespread belief in international Jewish omnipotence. Still, Weizmann himself is crucial. Rose writes,
"The British had all manner of things on their mind in 1917, other than a pro-Zionist declaration. But Weizmann's persistence maintained the momentum. We were persuaded," admitted Smuts. "But remember, it was Dr. Weizmann who persuaded us."
Charles Webster, a historian who worked in the Foreign Office at the time, observes,
With unerring skill, he adapted his arguments to the special circumstances of each statesman. Mr. Lloyd George was told that Palestine was a little mountainous country, not unlike Wales. With Lord Balfour, the philosophical background of Zionism could be surveyed. For Lord Cecil, the problem was placed in the setting of a new world organization.
On July 18, 1917, Weizmann sends Balfour a first draft of a proposed declaration stating that Palestine should be reconstituted as the national home of the Jewish people. In her diary, Vera Weizmann notes that 12 drafts of a resolution are submitted before an acceptable formula is found. The chief obstacle is what Weizmann calls the enemy within, high-ranking anti-Zionist Jewish notables. To appease them, the draft is watered down. The national home is now in Palestine, rather than Palestine as a whole. Added also is that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine. The final draft is endorsed by the Cabinet on October 31st. It will take the form of a letter from Arthur Balfour to Lord Rothschild, a strong Weizmann ally. Sir Mark Sykes comes out of the cabinet room to tell the waiting Weizmann, "It's a boy." Weizmann has triumphed. He has won for the Jews the charter which Herzl had vainly sought. And with it, he has won the right to lead world Zionism.